If you're a new gardener and you've made some mistakes, don't worry, you're not alone. Maybe last year's garden wasn't the best and you really are a little discouraged, feeling like you have a black thumb instead of a green one. Then this video is definitely for you. We're here to turn that around. It's my goal to help you grow a greener thumb and become a confident gardener. I think we had something like 16 to 18 million new gardeners in 2024, which is absolutely incredible. With all signs pointing to even more in 2025, the gardening community is growing stronger every day. And with new gardening, I remember my first time, the excitement and the challenges. I grew hydroponic cucumbers, and they tasted absolutely awful. It was a real learning experience. I think my brother actually said that he almost threw up when he ate them. It was that bad. And so that's not a good sign. It wasn't the best first crop for me either, but I learned a lot. It wasn't the best first crop for me either. But every mistake is a step towards becoming a better gardener. Which is why in today's video, I'm going to go over maybe 9 of the most common and devastating gardening mistakes that will prevent you from having epic harvests. These are mistakes that many new gardeners make, but with a little guidance, you can avoid them. So you know what to do, cultivate that like button, and I will personally give you a money-back guarantee that you will not have any gardening mistakes. Just kidding, but seriously, hit that like button. But let's get into the video. Grab your gardening gloves and let's dive in. Mistake number 1 is putting your garden in an inconvenient location. This is a common error that many new gardeners make, and it can lead to a lot of unnecessary frustration and wasted effort. I know it sounds simple, right? You might think, how hard can it be to choose a spot for a garden? You want a garden, you pick a spot, and you get going. But there's more to it than just picking any old spot. But you're going to want to be going back to this garden day after day, multiple times a day, especially if you're a new gardener. The more accessible it is, the more likely you are to tend to it regularly. You're going to be checking on things. You're going to be watering. You're going to be harvesting. These tasks are essential for a thriving garden, and they require frequent attention. You want to make it as easy as possible on yourself. Clear pathways and easy access can make a huge difference in your gardening experience. So, what does that mean? Well, it means putting it somewhere that's both physically easy to access, but also mentally low friction. You don't want to dread the walk to your garden. For me, that means a raised bed. Raised beds are not only convenient, but also versatile. And not just any raised bed, but a tall raised bed. The height can make a significant difference in your comfort level. I'm getting a little bit older now, and bending over just isn't as fun as it used to be. A tall raised bed helps alleviate that strain. So having that raised bed at a comfortable height makes a world of difference. It allows you to work longer and more efficiently without discomfort. Plus, it helps with drainage, it can warm up faster in the spring, and it just looks darn good in the backyard. A well-placed raised bed can be both functional and aesthetically pleasing. So do yourself a favor and choose a spot for your garden that's both convenient and comfortable. Think about your daily routine and how a conveniently located garden can fit into it seamlessly. Your back will thank you for it. And not just your back, but your overall gardening experience will be much more enjoyable and sustainable. Mistake number 2 is planting in an area that doesn't get enough sun. This is a common error that can lead to disappointing results in your garden. Now this one seems obvious, right? You might think everyone knows plants need sunlight, but it's easy to misjudge how much they actually require. Plants need sunlight to grow. It's their primary source of energy, and without it, they simply can't thrive. But you'd be surprised how many people underestimate just how much sun their plants need. It's not just about having some light, it's about having enough light. Most vegetables and fruiting plants need at least 6 hours of direct sunlight per day. This is crucial for their growth and productivity. And I'm talking about direct sunlight here, not just dappled shade. Dappled shade might look bright, but it's not the same as full sun. So before you even think about planting, take some time to observe the sun patterns in your yard. This step is essential for a successful garden. Pay attention to where the sun rises and sets, and how long different areas stay illuminated throughout the day. This will help you identify the best spots for your plants. You can even use a Sharpie to mark off areas on the ground to track the sun's movement. This visual aid can be incredibly helpful. Once you have a good understanding of your yard's sun exposure, you can start planning your garden accordingly. This planning phase is crucial for maximizing your garden's potential. Choose the sunniest spot for your sun-loving crops, and save the shadier areas for plants that can tolerate a bit less light. This way, every plant gets the light it needs to flourish. Mistake number 3 is planting too far from a water source. Now you might be thinking, Kevin, I've got a watering can, I'm good to go. And while that might work for a small container garden, it's not going to cut it for a larger in-ground or raised bed garden. Trust me, lugging heavy watering cans back and forth multiple times a day gets old real fast. Plus, inconsistent watering can lead to all sorts of problems for your plants, like blossom end rot, stunted growth, and even death. So, do yourself a favor and locate your garden as close to a water source as possible. Ideally, you'll want to be within easy reach of a hose bib or outdoor faucet. If that's not possible, consider investing in a rain barrel or setting up a simple irrigation system. Mistake number 4 is not respecting the power of mulch. Mulch is like a magic potion for your garden. It helps retain moisture in the soil, suppresses weeds, regulates soil temperature, and even adds organic matter as it breaks down. Plus, it just looks nice and tidy. There are tons of different types of mulch to choose from, like wood chips, straw, shredded leaves, and even compost. Experiment with different types to see what works best for your garden and your budget. A good layer of mulch should be about 2 to 4 inches deep. Apply it around your plants, being careful not to pile it up against the stems, as this can create a haven for pests and diseases. Mistake number 5 is not preparing the soil before you plant. Now I know it's tempting to just dig a hole and stick a plant in the ground, but if you want your plants to thrive, you need to give them a good foundation. That means taking the time to prepare your soil properly. Start by getting a soil test. This will tell you the pH level of your soil, as well as the levels of essential nutrients. Once you know what you're working with, you can amend your soil accordingly. Add compost, aged manure, or other organic matter to improve drainage, aeration, and nutrient content. You can also add amendments to adjust the pH level if necessary. Mistake number 6 is planting things you don't like to eat. Now this one might seem obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people get caught up in the excitement of planting and end up with a garden full of vegetables they don't even like. Gardening is a lot of work, so you want to make sure you're growing things you'll actually enjoy eating. Before you start planting, take some time to think about your favorite fruits, vegetables, and herbs. Make a list of what you eat most often, and then prioritize those crops in your garden plan. And don't be afraid to experiment with new varieties or unusual plants. You might just discover a new favorite. Mistake number 7 is planting too close together. We're all guilty of this one, right? We get excited about all the different plants we want to grow, and we try to cram them all into a small space. But the problem is, when plants are too close together, they have to compete for sunlight, water, and nutrients. This can lead to stunted growth, reduced yields, and even increased susceptibility to pests and diseases. So, do your plants a favor and give them some breathing room. Refer to the spacing recommendations on seed packets or plant tags and stick to them as closely as possible. It might seem like you're wasting space at first, but your plants will thank you in the long run. Mistake number 8 is planting things at the wrong time of year. Timing is everything when it comes to gardening. Different plants have different temperature and light requirements, and planting them at the wrong time of year can spell disaster. For example, planting tomatoes in the ground too early in the spring, before the soil has had a chance to warm up, can stunt their growth and make them more susceptible to disease. On the other hand, planting cool season crops like lettuce and spinach in the heat of summer can cause them to bolt or go to seed prematurely. To avoid these problems, it's important to know your local frost dates and to consult a planting calendar for your region. This will help you determine the best time to sow seeds indoors, transplant seedlings outdoors, and direct sow seeds into the garden. And finally, mistake number 9 is not leaning on the experience of others. Gardening can be a humbling experience, and there's no shame in asking for help when you need it. In fact, some of the best gardening advice comes from fellow gardeners who have been there, done that. So don't be afraid to reach out to experienced gardeners in your community, visit your local county extension office, or join online gardening forums and groups. There's a wealth of knowledge out there, and most gardeners are more than happy to share their tips and tricks. Remember, gardening is a journey, not a destination. There will be ups and downs, successes and failures. But by learning from your mistakes and seeking out guidance when you need it, you'll become a more confident and successful gardener over time. Well, there you have it, folks. 9 common gardening mistakes to avoid. Hopefully these tips helped you avoid some mistakes in your upcoming season of gardening. Remember, gardening is all about trial and error. Don't be afraid to experiment, make mistakes, and learn as you go. The most important thing is to just get out there and start growing. Good luck in the garden, and keep on growing.